YouTube? Awesome Rider here with my review for Kikai Sentai Zenkaiger episode 17. So, this was an alright episode. It was pretty much a filler episode, and like most Zenkaiger filler episodes, the most redeeming qualities of it were just some of the antics and bits that I found funny. So, the core premise was around this week's monster being from Invisible World, so he can turn invisible. And that ties into the other plot, which is around these ghost investigation that these kid ghost facer group has that Majin is sort of mentoring, and they want to see ghosts, and they think the invisible antics is the ghosts, and then Majin gets really upset when she finds out it's actually just the invisible monster causing it, because it's going to disappoint the kids. And the only nice character beat there was Majin mentioning that, like, the reason she wants this to work out for the kids is because she was also made fun of for her belief that she could do magic when she was younger and now, and so she doesn't want the kids to be made fun of for the same thing. Like, I was at least grateful they included a beat that actually was relevant to one of our characters instead of a useless filler character, but at the same time we didn't really learn anything new about Majin. I feel like that was already covered in her introduction, so I feel like it would have been nice to maybe further something we knew about her character or develop her in some way rather than just, you know, I don't know, reiterating something we already knew. But that was kind of the main plot of it. And Juran winds up getting turned invisible, and that leads to the biggest part of the episode that I thought was funny. Like, I didn't really care about these kid characters, and you know, there was some kind of amusing parts, but it was mostly filler, but the Juran stuff sort of made it worth it, at least mostly. Because they had kind of decided to use him to prove that ghosts were real to the kids since he was invisible, and then it seemed like they weren't going to get to do that, but then they pulled it off at the end, and then he seemingly saw a real ghost at the end, which was pretty funny. And the best part, though, for me was when they did the roll call. We had like a unique roll call this week, and it kind of reminded me back to Kara Major, how, if you guys remember, if you watched Kara Major, often Kara Major would do unique roll calls based on some sort of situation in the plot. And this one was both that Majin was mad at the monster for causing this trouble for the kids, and that Juran was invisible. So when we're doing the roll call, Juran's invisible through the whole thing. So they play the whole animation, you see the other four in there, but it's just a blank background screen for Juran. And there's like a blank space when he's supposed to be standing there. He's like, I think there's only 4 of you. And that was pretty funny. And after they defeat the monster on the ground, like, he winds up turning visible again, but then he gets turned invisible again when they're in mecha form. So it leads to the yellow half of the mecha only standing there by itself, which I think was a funny and creative idea and very in line with one of the things I do quite like about this series, is that the mecha fights are always kind of funny and unique based on the world. But that was a pretty funny bit with it. And then of course, you know, the other mecha come in and help save the day later. The funniest thing about it, aside from the premise of just the half mech standing there, since it's like a Kamen Rider double mech, is that it was clearly the toy that they were used. Like, you could really see the budget there, and it also gives me flashback to the old Saban MMPR days using the toys for the Ultra Zord. But that was pretty funny, and I think all around, one of Zenkaiger's strengths, I guess, is the funny use of the gimmick of the week in regards to the monster. And this week with Juran's invisibility and then the invisibility with the mecha, I thought it was pretty funny. And then there was some pretty funny stuff too with Majin in regards to her anger towards the monster. Like, I thought the only thing special about the roll call was going to be invisible Juran, but it was also like really mad occult Majin because she's upset at this monster. And then when they find out that they made the putties invisible, yes, I call all the henchmen putties, she like used this curse technique like from Pokemon on it, and she's going all crazy. So there's some funny stuff within that as well. So I thought that was pretty clever, and again, it reminded me of Kara Major with the unique roll calls and the setup, and it made for some pretty fun stuff. But other than that, there wasn't really a whole lot going on. It was just kind of your run-of-the-mill, entertaining-ish filler episode. They did go over to the base at the end with Stacy, and I thought, oh, we're gonna kind of have, not a cliffhanger, but maybe a send-up for the next episode. But it wasn't really. It was just Stacy again having that same flashback about his mom and how Kaito's grandmother reminds him of her. And I thought there was going to be more revealed there, but it basically just reiterated what Stacy's been doing in the previous 2 episodes. So that was a little bit disappointing and in a way kind of needless. I'm like, okay, well, what was the point of that? You know, because one thing that Zenkaiger's done a couple times is when they had a more fillery episode, they will have like an end scene or a scene within there that actually does further something, and that's what I thought this was going to be. But again, they didn't really show us anything new. But one positive thing I'll say about that, not to give it overwhelming praise or anything, but one positive thing I'll say about that is at least they showed they didn't forget about an ongoing story. If you've been watching my Sentai reviews for a few years, that was one of my complaints about a few of the years of Sentai, like Ninja and Zyuohger, was they would have these long-running storylines, and then we would drop them off and not pick them up for a really long time. Same thing with Loop Hat. Like, if I not pick them up, I don't mean that, like, we didn't get to it, but we didn't even mention it. It was as if they didn't even exist. So I guess on the positive side, even though that scene didn't teach us anything new, at least it showed that this storyline is still being thought of and it's not being dropped. Even though if it would have been one episode they did mention it, it would have been fine because it was one episode. But yeah, this episode was okay. It was an overall entertaining-ish filler. I would give it a 3 out of 5. Nothing too special to write home about. Some amusing bits with Juran and some of the invisibility gimmick, but that was about it. But what did you guys think of this episode? Let me know in the comments. As always, until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps, ring that bell so you can hear my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.